It is my favorite day of the week, ladies and gentlemen, and that is my day we get to dive into Dynasty Fantasy Football teams, see if we can come up with some real trades, see if we can come up with some realistic strategy for rookie drafts. And our first team is going to be a very interesting format that we get to look at here. Coming out from D says, hey Mason, just subscribe and love your content. Feel free to use this in a video. This is my first Dynasty, and this is our first year of the league. I made it to the finals and just looking for options to improve the team from here. It is a 10-team, 1 quarterback, full PPR tight end premium of 2.25 points per reception. This is actually going to make a considerable difference in how we are evaluating tight ends. A lot of times, if you're playing in a league where you're just getting an extra half a point per reception, honestly, who cares? I'm not really going to be making a big deal out of it. And instead, I'm just going to go through and almost treat it as if it's a regular Dynasty format. But if you read our Dynasty research book on flogfantasy.com, you will see that there is a big time difference once you make it anything more than 1.75 points per reception for the tight end position. So yeah, we are actually going to be wanting to start tight ends in the flex spot here. Those guys at the very top, such as Sam Laporta, are going to make up a much higher percentage of our starting lineup output. So should be super excited about those players. But it's also a 0.2 point per rush attempt. Now, I know a lot of people already understand, yes, this means that we are more excited about running backs. You're more likely to put a running back into the flex spot in a point per carry league than you would be in a regular format. But something that a lot of people don't think about right away, which they should, is you're also going to be changing the kind of quarterback that you are targeting. Here in a point per carry league, you're going to be a lot more excited to go through and grab someone like Lamar Jackson, go through and grab someone like Justin Fields. Getting someone that can actually rack up 100 carries in a season is a very big deal here in this format. We have kickers, defensive players, not too concerned. We took a look at this team. You're only starting one individual defensive player at linebacker, defensive lineman, defensive back. I mean, if this is a league where you had to start 3 to 4 linebackers, 2 to 3 defensive backs, and a couple defensive linemen, then all of a sudden the IDP aspect would matter. But if you're just starting at one of each position, it really doesn't. It's like, what if I were to tell you, oh yeah, you only start one wide receiver? It's like, okay, well, I don't really care about receivers there. Got the 101 in rookie picks, but not much in the way of 2025 or 2026 selections. Definitely planning on taking Marvin Harrison Jr., hitting the starting roster. What other moves should we make, and what are your overall thoughts on the team? So let's go ahead and let's pull this up, my friend. Now, the first thing that I want to notice with this roster is going to be the fact that this is a shallower format overall. Not only is this a 10-team league, but also you're only starting 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 2 flex spots. So I understand we start the defensive guys, but I am not too concerned about those players. So very shallow format. I mean, outside of quarterback, if we were looking at running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and flexes that are being started, I mean, here you're starting 7 guys, the combination of 7 running back, wide receiver, tight ends. So you have 70 of those players being started across the entire league. Compare this to a 12-team start 10 super flex league, and you will see that, yeah, depth doesn't really matter here. That is going to mainly hit the wide receiver position, and that we're not going to have to go too deep when it comes to our overall flex plays. And instead, we are going to be prioritizing getting those top end running backs, getting a top end tight end, and not really caring about the wide receivers like Hollywood Brown. But the other adjustment we need to make is we are going to be putting an even greater emphasis on tight end. As you remove the amount of starting lineup spots overall, naturally tight end is going to make up a higher percentage of the starting lineup output. We can say the same thing with QB. At quarterback here, we have Lamar Jackson. Lamar, perfect guy to have in a point per carry format. There's really nothing to discuss beyond that. I mean, I would kind of classify Lamar a little more as a win now option. I'm not planning a team for 2026, 2027 around Lamar Jackson. He may still be a very good NFL quarterback at that point, but if the rushing production does take a dip, from a fantasy football perspective, he may not be the same level player that he is now. So love Lamar Jackson in this format. Going down beyond Lamar, we have Cousins, we have Stafford. So some of these guys that aren't going to run the ball at all, but I mean, hell, we can play them in the short term. If Lamar were to get hurt, I mean, if we have a bye week, we can go ahead and plug him in. And going over to running back, we are sitting with Devon Achane as well as Bijan Robinson. Now, obviously, if you are looking at Achane, this is a running back that was a phenomenal rookie. I mean, he comes in, he's the most efficient running back in the entire NFL year 1. I do have some hesitation in possibly what we could see from his overall workload going forward, I think that there is a small possibility that Achane doesn't have the size to be a true feature down running back. We didn't really see him get used in a feature down way year one. He ended up getting hurt. We just simply have never seen a running back at his size really be able to handle anything more than, I don't want to put a cap on it. We're not seeing Achane turn into a running back that's Josh Jacobs of 2 years ago, right? But still, he can be great in fantasy. In a point per carry format, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to sell Achane and go pick up someone like Kenneth Walker plus, specifically in this format. I think that could make sense. Obviously, we need a lot added on. Going over to what we have with Isaiah Pacheco, I think Pacheco makes a lot of sense in a point per carry league. I would historically be a little bit worried about what you have with Pacheco, just given the fact that he's that running back that doesn't have a ton of investment into him. Maybe the team looks to move on. The thing is, the NFL draft is so bad this year at the running back position. I'm not super concerned. Going down to the bench, we have DeAndre Swift. I don't want to sit here and say, oh yeah, DeAndre Swift's going to find himself in a great spot. Maybe he signed somewhere that you're excited about. Maybe he doesn't. We just simply don't know at this point. But what we can say is, hell, if you're looking to contend, find running back depth. I mean, he may end up being a difference-making player. Now, going over to wide receiver, we actually have a ton of names here. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown, we have Keenan Allen, we have Devonta Smith. You go down to the bench, we have both Jordan Addison as well as Jalen Waddle. Now, going back to what we were talking about at the very top, I don't necessarily care too much here when it comes to the wide receiver depth for this team. Now, with that being said, a big thing that this team also needs to point out is we don't have a 2025 first. We don't have a 2026 first. So maybe the depth matters a little bit more here as we have someone like Keenan Allen, presumably in 2025, being a non-factor in fantasy when he's in year 12 of his NFL career. So I think the depth matters a little bit more for this team than it would otherwise. Tight end, we have both Evan Ingram as well as Mark Andrews. Both guys look startable. I understand Ingram dropped away back in 2017. Still pretty damn young. And then with Andrews, should be excited as well, given the fact that this is someone that stacks with Lamar Jackson. And obviously, it's a massive bonus for this format to have both these players where you can put one in the flex. Now, the first thing that I want to be pointing out is what we are doing on the IDP side of things here, where if you are looking at this roster, we really only start 3 individual defensive players from week to week perspective. I mean, maybe you throw in the flex guys. So we start 4 defensive players from week to week perspective. On the offensive side of things, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starters. So we have double the amount of offensive starters than we do on the defensive side of the ball. If we go down to the bench, what I'm a little bit surprised about is we are rostering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 offensive guys in comparison to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 defensive players. I do think that maybe we're going a little bit too heavy in terms of rostering a lot of these defensive names that really, I don't want to say are the same as waiver wire options. I'm not an IDP expert, but that are a little bit more replaceable in this format overall. So there are a couple different things that we could do. One, I think particularly in this league, where if you were looking at the settings, where the very most you could only ever start 4 wide receivers, combine that with the fact that given the fact you're getting 2.25 points per reception for the tight end position, probably never wanting to put a wide receiver in the flex spot over someone like Evan Ingram, and you are getting 0.2 point per carry for running back, I'm typically not going to want to go through and throw a wide receiver in the flex spot over a running back either. I think that wide receiver should be heavily devalued here. And if you could go through and sell, say, Keenan Allen and one of your defensive players and get a 2025 first, get a 2026 first, I think from a points per game perspective this year, that's not really going to impact you too much when we have Jalen Waddle, we have Jordan Addison down there on the bench as is. And if you really needed to, I mean, you could go through and during this season, if we were looking to contend, we could sell that 2025 first. We could sell that 2026 first to plug a hole. But my concern always is if we are sitting here with no future picks really at all, say we go into the season and we get sideswiped. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but hypothetically going down crazy world, what happens if the Kansas City Chiefs take Jonathan Brooks? What happens if they take Trey Benson? What happens if they sign Austin Eckler? What happens if the Kansas City Chiefs make a play at running back and Pacheco's no longer startable, and then we have Bijan Robinson get injured? Just those two things happening, which we know a lot's going to happen in the course of the offseason and the regular season. Those two unforeseen things happening throw this team off the tracks. And when we have no future picks, it's very difficult to get it back on. So I always, even on a contending team, want to go into the season with future picks. It just gives us so much more added flexibility. So depending on the price point, if we could move off Keenan, get some additional future capital, not necessarily hurt our production in the short term, give us a lot of flexibility for both the long term and if we wanted to contend this year based off the wide receiver position being a little bit devalued here. I think that is something that I'd look to do. Outside of that, great team. Like we said, I think you could also look to potentially sell like Devon Achane if you can get Kenneth Walker in a first-round pick, something nuts like that, considering that this is a point-per-carry format. And maybe instead of chasing the efficiency with running backs, we should be chasing the volume in this format in particular. I think that could make sense. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for everything. I really hope that you got something from this. And as always, do not hesitate. If there's anything that you want to see on flockfantasy.com that we don't currently have, reach out to me. Let me know. I'm investing everything that I have into flockfantasy.com, working my butt off every single day to try to make it the best site on the planet for you in particular. So if there's anything you ever want to see, don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know. Our developer team can get it done for you. And I know that this took us about 9 days to get to your team. I am very sorry about that, my friend. I was in Arizona with the Underdog crew this past week, hanging out for the Super Bowl. So I am playing a little bit of catch up with these teams, taking a little longer than it used to, but we will get caught up, and I guarantee that. Thank you so much for everything. But we are going to go ahead and check out this team from S Bears, a longtime member of the flock. And this actually rolls into a question that we have in the live chat right now. Anthony coming out with the donation says, if we renew Mother Flocker tier, do we get a new breakdown? Thanks. Yes, sir. 100%. A new breakdown every single year. So if you got a breakdown last year and you're a member of flockfantasy.com, just go ahead, send your team in the roster submissions tab again. I'd be super happy to dive into that. But thank you so much for the donation. And thank you, James, as well. And James says, hey, Mason, I'm trying to get the 107 in my 12-team Dynasty Superflex. I have Allen, Kyler, Russ, Bryce Young. I'm looking to trade Bryce, Otton, a third and a fourth. Is that a good deal? I mean, yeah, Bryce is your current quarterback for. I'm completely fine trading Bryce Young in a third and a fourth round pick to go ahead and get the 107. I mean, y'all know I did call Bryce Young that buy low candidate. I just took him past the 112 rookie pick in our most recent Dynasty startup. So I'd say I'm buying Bryce Young if we can buy him for an early second or the 111, 112. But if you're looking at like the 107 where you're still going to get someone like Brock Bowers and Bryce Young's your quarterback for, I think that's a completely fair price point to go out there and move off of him. But let's move off this, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, if you don't know how to get your team broken down, if you're a member of flockfantasy.com, all you got to do is hit the Discord button either at the top of the site or on your account page. It's going to take you, it's going to say link my account. You hit link my account. It will link your flockfantasy.com account with your Discord account. And just go over to Mason's Flock. If you use code FLOCK, this should be unlocked for you. All you do, send me a screenshot, send me a message in roster submissions. You can let me know if you don't want it on YouTube. Let me know if you want it on YouTube. Whatever you want, completely fine. I understand. And yeah, I'd be super happy to dive into that. And if you're not already a member of flockfantasy.com, just find the link in the description, live chat, comment section. Code FLOCK will get you 30% off any subscription. It'll get you all my Dynasty rankings. You get all the Dynasty rankings for all your favorite creators on YouTube, all the premium content, 30% off any subscription with code FLOCK, and also the Mother Flogger tier and code FLOCK. Yours truly will break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team on a podcast or live stream like this. But S Bears coming out and says, hey, Mason, looking to get a review on my team in the Flock 18. That's one side thing I got to say as well. If you are in the Discord and you're a member of flockfantasy.com, be on the lookout. We have some open spots in my Dynasty leagues if you want in. I'm going to create a new channel. I'm going to be sending all the teams in there. Maybe I send them in the announcements, but I think we have like 10 or so spots. So if you are wanting a spot in one of my Dynasty leagues, those will probably be sent out tonight, or maybe we'll send them out tomorrow. But as Bears says, hey, Mason, looking to get a review on my team in the Flock 18. 12-team Superflex, full PPR, at-point tied in premium format, start 11. Pretty much all our leagues are start 11 here. I won the league last year, still have all my draft capital. I'm wondering what moves you'd be looking to make to go for back-to-back championships. So that's Bears essentially coming out to flex on us, that is. I mean, I see what you're doing, my man. I see what you're doing. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and let's dive into this. This is a start 11 format. So how I typically skew from start 11 formats is I'm going to be a little bit more willing to build around wide receiver. I mean, we go back to that team that we just looked at previously. That team previously, you can only start 4 wide receivers at the very most. So I'm sitting there going, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm not super interested in the position. You don't have to go that deep. And also, it had a crazy tight end premium, half point per carry. So you're less likely to put a wide receiver in the flex spot in general. But here in these flock leagues, I really like building around wide receiver depth. Here, S Bears has the QB1 for a lot of people in Dynasty and Josh Allen. A QB2 for me, but right there, obviously, I'd have him as QB1 in redraft, but should be super excited about it regardless. Yeah, Baker Mayfield here is quarterback 2. Looks great. Should have a starting job this next season. We don't really have a QB3 of note. I mean, this past season, you had Zach Wilson, you had Sam Howell. I'm operating under the assumption neither quarterback will be a starter this next year. So definitely team that could look to add in a QB3 here. Going over to running back, we have Travis Etienne, James Cook. Going down to the bench, I mean, we are sitting with Khalil Herbert. Maybe Rico Dowdle does something. Probably not, right? We have Khalil Herbert. We have Tajay Spears. But nonetheless, Tajay Spears, Travis Etienne, James Cook, these are running backs that are on their rookie deals. These are running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I don't know. I think you'd be excited about this trio in comparison to a lot of other running backs in Dynasty. I think you can contend with this trio, especially in a start 11 league where I don't necessarily think running back has to be as strong as it would be in that shallower format that we looked at the beginning of the stream. Now, going over to wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison in our 3 slots. This is 100% how I want to build out my wide receiver room in these flock leagues. Young, productive players that you can contend with right now, and you are not worried about them not being startable going into the future. You have the depth for the long term. You have the production in the short term. You'll love to see it. We have Deebo Samuel, Christian Kirk here as well. You'll love to see it. I mean, going down a little bit further, we have Jahan Dotson. I liked Jahan Dotson last year. I mean, I'd say at this point, it's probably a long shot to do anything, but really strong team. You can kind of see why this team was able to win it this past year, both with the wide receiver depth that we have combined with the elite level quarterbacks. This team could afford to add in another wide receiver, especially as Deebo and Kirk age. But I mean, really, we're just fine. We don't have to go out there and make that move, right? TJ Hawkinson at tight end. So we have the Addison-Hawkinson connection here, that correlation in the Minnesota Vikings passing offense. Hawkinson, I think, is a great tight end if you're looking to contend, if you're looking to rebuild. We have Tucker Kraft to potentially do something in the long term. So overall, this is a team with 0 holes. I'd say QB3 could definitely be something that we want to work on. Maybe the only thing that we can really talk about here is, are we looking to run it back, try to win again in 2024, or maybe kickstart a rebuild and come back with a juggernaut in 25 or 26? I would say based off this team, more than enough production to go ahead and contend this next year. And also, if you are looking at a lot of these players currently, a lot of these guys profiled to be a little more of contending assets than rebuilding, right? I would say if I'm a rebuilder, I'd probably want to sell Etienne. I'd probably want to sell James Cook. I probably want to sell, I don't know, maybe you sell Waddle depending on price. I'd probably want to sell Jalen Warren. I'd probably want to sell Deebo Samuel. I'd probably want to sell Christian Kirk. I'd probably want to sell Baker Mayfield. That if I was a rebuilder. I don't think this team's a rebuilder. I think that this team is a contender. I mean, so if I'm sitting here, I think that you can do a couple different things. One, if there is a team that's rebuilding in this league, and they maybe are sitting there with Rodgers, Cousins, Daniel Jones. At least in the case of Daniel Jones, I'd probably wait to the NFL draft, see if he's safe. But, I mean, I'd look at that 112 pick, say it's probably expendable, right? Because, I mean, if you're able to go through, sell the 112, pick up a quarterback that can start for another 2 years and really extend this window and help you go for it, I think that would make a lot of sense. If we're also looking at some of these other picks, I mean, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to go through and sell a late second and a couple thirds. If you could get a great price point on a veteran wide receiver that maybe has a little bit of juice left, right? So if we could go through and sell the 212, 309, 312, It's probably unlikely I would reject it if I was the owner, but if you wanted to send it out to Chris Godwin and see what happens, and bolster that wide receiver depth just a bit. Because the thing is, these aren't rookie picks that are like cornerstone assets that we can build. And this isn't the 107th. This isn't the 106. We're not getting Rome. We're not getting Bowers. I mean, of course, we're never getting Neighbors. So, I mean, if I'm sitting here, I'm saying, okay, these rookie picks, probably not much to begin with. If they can really help us contend this next season, I do think that'd make a lot of sense. And specifically, if you're coming off a year where we just won, where it's a team that's really strong, I think you make the move. I think there's a big difference between selling like the 112 and selling your future first. Because obviously we want to hold on to that future first. That way during the season, I mean, if we have an injury to Josh Allen, we really need another quarterback, we have some ammo that we can go through and we can make a trade with, right? That way we can keep the ship alive. I don't want to sell the 2025 first unless you get an absurd price point where you can't pass up on it. But I think those other rookie picks probably really expendable for this roster with how it's currently set up to make another run. But thank you again, my friend, for being a longtime member of the flock. Thank you for being in leagues with us. Really hope that we were able to help you out with this podcast. And I don't even have to say it. If there's anything you ever want on the site, reach out to me. The developers and I will make sure we can get that done for you, my friend. Really do appreciate you. But I think we'll probably cut the live stream here. I did see a question regarding the Dynasty flock leagues that we are about to have some open spots in. All those leagues are $60 buy-ins. I understand that a lot of people want them higher than that. I get it, but no, there's $60 buy-ins. That way we can keep it uniform across all the leagues. That way it's easy for us to get new owners if we have owners leave, which obviously just happened, which is why we all have those open spots in the Discord. If anybody's interested. And of course, thank you so much if everybody watched this live stream. I really do appreciate you. If you have not already, subscribe, play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you wanted to join the flock, of course, if you don't, no issues. But you would on flockfantasy.com, so you can find all my Dynasty rankings, all the Dynasty rankings of all your favorite creators. I mean, if you use code FLOCK, get 30% off any subscription. Yours truly will break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team in a podcast. And make sure you be on the lookout in the Discord if you are a member of the flock, because we all have some open spots in our Dynasty leagues that I'll probably post tonight, but we probably won't begin to actually start filling them until tomorrow. I'll add everybody tomorrow when we're looking to fill those. But thank you again. I really do appreciate y'all. Really hope you have a great night. And I hope I get to see you out with the video tomorrow. Should be actually a pretty good one.